It's required that we have a quorum unless he's directed. Please acknowledge her presence. Walt Leszewski, President. Bob Lilac. Here. Mindy Reynolds.
Present.
Steve Lawrence.
Here.
Jim Beers.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. I call the meeting to order. Item number 2, will you kindly stand and join me when we pledge allegiance to the flags of the United States and Texas? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 3, public comments. Anyone signed up for public comments? Nothing at all. Number 4, consider an act request for adjustments. Are there any adjustments? Nothing at all. Yeah, moving right on. Consent agenda. Does anyone have a comment on any of the consent agendas? All right, do I have a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda?
And I do have a question.
Okay.
And that's on page 8. Under the revenue, other revenue, for almost $250,000 for the year so far. What is that? That coffee income?
GRP rebate,
It's,
the GRP rebate.
was that what that is? Okay. That's it.
Rebate, the refund.
Yeah.
Spoke about in
Okay.
May or June.
Now I make the motion to go to the
Thank you.
consent
All
agenda.
right, we have a motion. Do I have a second? All right, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to regular agenda, item number 9, review the district draft fiscal year operating budget.
All right, before you have the budget itself, a little budget memo draft, kind of describing on it. We are not going to be taking any action today. This is just merely to present it to you, and then we'll take action next month to finalize the budget. Budget, just to give you some background on what's in it, at the top in yellow is this budget, is developed in conjunction with the tax rate setting recommendations that you'll hear here in the next agenda item. So any changes to this, at least from on the revenue side. And then as far as water and sewer rates, we're not having any proposed changes to water and sewer rates. The changes to the SGRA rates are in here. So as you recall, water is lowering, GRP is lowering, sewers staying the same on that stuff on the revenue. Probably you're more interested in talking about the expenses, but you want to go to the backside of this in the tan area to kind of point out a few things that are a little bit different. On the 5300.05 is water service repair. That actually includes a recommendation to go in and change out the 3 and 4 inch commercial compound meters to ultrasonics. So when you changed to AMI meters on the residential side years ago, they didn't make the larger diameter meter. So you retrofitted them to be able to read electronically, but the meter itself is still an old mechanical compound meter. So proposal would be to change out, you have 6, that's all there are. So the slight increase in your budget there is about 16,000 or so, 16,000 and a half is due to that.
I'm sorry, that's 50, that's 05.
Yes, 05.
Okay,
And so the budget last year was 97.5, going to 114. The delta there is those meters.
okay.
So you're talking $20,000 per meter?
Yes, they're expensive. No, per meter, no.
Well, for 6 meters and 114,000.
Look at the delta between last year and this year. We're keeping generally all expenses as last year the same, so it's only about 16,000.
Oh, so there are other expenses included.
The normal expenses, yes, on the water.
Now, out of curiosity, what does one of those 4-inch AMI meters cost?
I don't recall offhand. It's about 3. Yeah, it's material and installation. It's probably 16 divided by 6.
What?
So roughly 3,000. And that will complete your replacing the old compound meters with the the modern ultrasonic meters. Let's see on the
Well, that'll give us the latest technology out in the field then. Correct.
the most accurate meter setup. That's so if you recall, we hired an auditing firm that goes out and identifies where you might be having losses or not capturing revenue rather. And there's different ways that they can capture the lost revenue. One is mechanical failures, mechanical problems. One could be record keeping in terms of putting like the wrong billing rate into the system or something. They could find it that way. They've come in and definitely found some areas where there's lost revenue. And I think 100% of them are related to these commercial compound meters where there's a low flow and a high flow, kind of 2 ports, and 1 or 2 of them is sticking or isn't reading is what the majority of the issues that have been found. And so those old mechanical compound meters, the parts are becoming less and less or scarce to be able to fix them because they're going away from those and going to the ultrasonics. So that's another reason to move forward. So ideally, we will capture some increased revenue just due to efficiency of the meters and performance of the meters versus the old compounds. On this, all down on 5,314, that was another one that had a little bit something new. Obviously, we had an issue with the Wedgewood Lake last year, and those are surprises. And I'm anticipating across all the muds, we're going to have more of that. We had several other districts had the same thing. And so what we've done here is budgeted for one of those per district across all the districts. What we're also doing behind the scenes is auditing our entire ditch and ditch piping system. We don't have great records of where the pipes are, what they are, how old they are, et cetera. So we're building that audit right now. But it won't be done in time for me to be able to do a full-blown capital improvement plan for your budget. So what we've done in the meantime is put in at least one major repair for a collapse in each district. So about 25,000 for that. So that's in this on that 0.14 line item.
Gentlemen, stated, you guys familiar with Wedgewood Lake? What happened? The collapse of the pipe.
I only heard about it. I'm not really familiar.
They had a pipe that collapsed, actually going through a neighbor's backyard, causing a big sinkhole, and the lake had to be drained. And
The majority of these pipes that go into these ponds and ditches, so whether there's 2 types of pipes. One is a storm sewer that comes from the street, goes in between lots, and then dumps into a pond or a ditch or whatever. That the street piping will be concrete pipe up until the very last manhole before it reaches the ditch or the pond. And then it'll transition to what's called CMP, corrugated metal pipe. On the flip side, also along the ditches, on the banks, you'll see what's called backslope interceptor swales. That's the kind of swale along the top of the bank that collects rainwater that just falls. And what the purpose of that is you don't want water rushing over the top of the ditch, top of banks, because it'll erode the tops. So you run it longwise through backslope interceptor swales, and then you catch it in a pipe and you put it into the ditch that way. Those pipes are also CMP, corrugated metal pipe. What we've seen in history is after about 20, 25 years, 30 years, they start disintegrating into nothing. And so it's only a matter of time until a big sinkhole occurs. And we had We had last year, well, Wedgewood was in the same similar situation where it's right along the back fence or between lots, takes down the fence with it when the sinkhole occurs, and it's a big mess. What I'd like to do is get ahead of that and try to assess the condition of these pipes before they become that. Because we can fix them and not have to fix fences and, you know, the bigger repairs. So
How do you find them before the fact?
we're gonna run the ditches and take pictures and do an evaluation, an audit, yeah. Yeah, right now, our GIS system doesn't specifically show the backslope interceptor pipe itself. We have a ditch layer, but we don't have the pipe layer for that. We have the storm sewer leading up and the ditch, but we don't have the pipes coming in. So we're trying to capture that to put that into our asset management and GIS program. Then going forward, we'll have that data to be able to assess them each year, see how they've progressed. If they weren't ready to be fixed this year, maybe we budget next year and we can get a handle on this. And if it's big enough problem, we would come back to you for an actual capital project to do multiples to save some money, because you do them one at a shot and it's gonna be a lot more expensive than doing 10 at a time in terms of per. Get a little cost benefit if you do them, but I don't know where we are. One of the thoughts that we had is maybe identifying a few of them a year and essentially getting them a rollover completion over a 5 or 7 year period. It's another way to budget for them. If you can control it that way. But if we've got more that are that bad a shape, we won't have that luxury. So that's why we're trying to audit them right now to see where they are in terms of condition.
And one of the things, Dave, is not just the cost of doing that repair, it's the PR that you go through, because we had a drained lake and you killed the fish. And, you know, it was just a PR nightmare. In fact, I think you ended up pumping water back from the lake back in to try to fill it up faster.
Found another situation, it was on the news because a dog got caught down one of the broken pipes in 46. And, you know, that was another situation. Dog got out, it's fine, but the point being is we don't want it to get there. And so.
Would sending something like floor scopes down to look in,
You don't even need to. Yeah, these are minimum 24-inch pipes, so you can see right through them. You can see the pipe. We do that. We'll daylight it or spotlight it just to look, but you can usually stand there right there at the backslope interceptor and see where you're at. It's pretty obvious, and it's like clockwork with these. It's just it's a metal in a water environment, so it corrodes over time. And so when we replace them, we replace them with HDPE material that doesn't break down like that.
What length of, I mean, are all these cumulative, you know, I guess drainage systems? Yeah, I mean, are we talking miles? We talking about?
No. These are just short stubs that come, you know, they either start at the top bank
Right.
and go down into the ditch. So it depends on how wide big the ditch is for that. But, and then the storm sewer piece, same thing. It's just a short last stub of pipe that's going into the ditch. Yeah, so accumulatively, I mean, it might amass to something, but not miles, I don't think, for any district. Overall, maybe that much overall, across all districts. But that's what we're trying to assess right now is how many do we have?
Somebody just walking them and looking at them.
Yeah, we're going to be running. Well, we're working with the mowing contractor who's already out there. And they're going to be doing the analysis. We also in the WWA budget, we've put in monies to buy a UTV to actually run the ditches on a regular basis. What we found after the hurricane is we didn't have a real good process for assessing damage along all the ditches. So what I'm doing is building a emergency response protocols on the ditches so that we can, you know, once it's safe, we'll get out and we'll run them ourselves and assess where the trees are down, what if any damage are caused in our ditches. And we'll do that going forward. And then we'll probably do that a couple times a year just for checks outside of natural disasters. So, a lot going on in the ditch world. But it's an asset we can't ignore. That's the thing, you know, water, sewer, and drainage. That's what we're responsible for.
Thank you. Anything else?
No, you have a healthy reserve. That's something also I've expressed to all the boards last year and this year is you've got even in doing some of these projects that we've put in here, you still with the tax rate recommendation and water and sewer rates, you're able to hold about a 15-month reserve, which is, you know, in this growing field of aging infrastructure, that's a good place to have to be. We've got districts that are at 3, and we're trying to get all the districts up a little bit to have some buffer for some of the expenses. So you're in good shape.
All right. And I'm assuming over the month, if anybody has any questions on this, they can generate it there.
Correct. And we'll next month, if there's any changes that have occurred, we'll point those out to you.
All right, thank you. Item number 10, receive the financial advisor's recommendation concerning the intended tax rate.
Morning.
Good morning.
On page 16, you should have a letter that looks like this, followed by a table. I'll just remind you that the tax rate setting process is a 2-step process. So all you're doing today is authorizing publication of that total tax rate. Next month, you'll hold your public hearing and then adopt and levy the tax rate. So you always want to consider and publish the highest rate you'll consider this month, because next month you can always come down from that number. You just can't go up without republishing. All that being said, your certified value came in at 1.265 billion with another 31.69 million currently uncertified. That's an increase of about 7.37% over last year's 1.2 billion. We flip to the next page. With respect to your maintenance and operating budget, your 2023 tax rate was 0.069545. This year, we're recommending 0.06701, so a slight decrease. Parity, if you wanted to raise the same number of dollars you did last year, you'd need 6.48 cents. And currently, you need roughly 3 cents to balance your budget. So as Eric mentioned, this will give you a surplus to add to your operating surplus overall. The value of a penny in your district's $127,000. In the middle box, with respect to the homesteads and the tax bill, last year's average homestead was $461,053, meaning that the average tax bill for your residents was $321. At the proposed rate of 0.06701, and with this year's homestead of $495,263, the tax bill would go up to $332 or an $11 increase. That's a 3.5%. The homestead went up about 7.42% year over year, and then the tax bill would be up 3.5%. And then the bottom box, with respect to Senate Bill 2, you made the designation on behalf or on the recommendation of your engineer to be a developed district because you are developed by the definition. And so what that means is your average tax bill cannot go up more than 3.5%, or it's a mandatory rollback election. And so we kept it at 3.5%. You can see the parity rate, as I mentioned, was 6.48 cents. But second line from the bottom, total rate to avoid a rollback election, 0.06701. And then the rollback rate is 0.06701. So even if you had a rollback election at this point, it wouldn't matter because your proposed rate is the rollback rate.
My only comment is we have a tax rate that has 5 decimal places. And if we just round it off back to 0.07 like we had 2 years ago, that is a rate that people can remember.
If you go 0.07, you'll be above and you'll be subject to a rollback. You can do 0.067.
Okay, I would,
which
that's my second choice is 0.067. Because the other 0.01 is amounts to pennies, so.
Y'all's rates gotten so low, we gotta go out to a lot more decimal places.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you
It's a
get,
good problem to have,
when you get to the billions in tax base, it's meaningful.
but Yeah, I mean, that's not gonna make a material difference.
Yeah, that's right.
Even if we lower it to recommended, it's still gonna go up roughly $11 per resident.
$10 and some change.
$11.18.
Yeah,
No,
Less than $1 a month.
and the rates go down. 0.002 pennies.
So for our new directors, as Adam mentioned, the tax rate process is a two-step process. So the first step, which is today, is to authorize the publication of the notice required by law to publish the notice of the district's intent to levy a tax in a newspaper of general circulation in the area. And so Jeannie publishes the notices in the Conroe Courier. And so those notices go out and say that the district is considering levying a tax rate not to exceed blank at your next board meeting. And at your next board meeting, you conduct a public hearing. If there's folks here, you receive comments from the public. After the public hearing, then you adopt an order levying your rate. So we always tell folks when you're considering a tax rate, publish at the highest. I think this one, there's not really much, much to consider, but districts that are struggling with go higher and go lower, publish at the higher because you can always ultimately adopt lower. But if you change and say, oh, I actually want to go a little bit higher, you got to reboot the process. You have to republish the notice. That's more expense. And you have to hold another meeting, another public hearing to levy a higher tax rate. So here, I don't think that's much of an issue, but we do still need to go through the process of today. We need to take a motion to authorize publication of the notice in the Courier of the tax rate for proposed tax rate not to exceed for 2020. So if your motion is for 0.067 period, then that would be.
That's the motion I make.
Okay.
I second.
Like, want to call a vote?
You need a second.
No, not yet.
Oh.
How much from a reserve standpoint do we have if we have another Wedgewood incident and everything? I mean,
I mean, your cash position is 4.3 million. So you're in pretty good shape as far as the Wedgewood goes. I mean, that was a $50,000+ deal. So you're in good shape there. I think the bigger look would be to look forward to some of the bigger items. And once those come, whatever they are, I mean, obviously we've talked about AC, we've talked about treatment plant. We have not talked about the district's internal WWA lines, the smaller diameter AC and sewer pipes. Now you've been fixing some sewer pipe in the sanitary sewer rehab. So that's in pretty good shape. But like I mentioned, this storm sewer piping, that's the thing that I'm a little worried about, that I want to make sure that we're in good positioning. I think this tax rate and this recommendation puts you in good shape. I think you're okay with money, especially if we need to go do a capital project for ditch piping, or we need to budget for it every year, whatever that ends up looking like magnitude wise. I think you're fine, in my opinion.
Yeah, and as Adam mentioned, you really can't go above this rate without being subject to an automatic rollback.
oh yeah, I understand that. I just get concerned about the infrastructure. I mean, it's getting older and older and
We should be, yeah. But I think I think Mud One is doing a great job in planning forward with that and having reserve funds in place to at least chew off some of this with cash.
And the Association of Water Board Directors recommends reserves minimum of 16 months up to 24. And we're basically at their recommended minimum.
Okay. Well, like I said, I just get concerned about that. Make sure we just have enough to cover because it is gonna happen. I mean, what Panther Creek is in excess of 40 years old. There's a lot of infrastructure out there that's very old, subject to break. Okay, your motion is again? I'm sorry.
The motion is to set the tax rate, published tax rate of 0.067.
All right, was there a second? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Item 11, receive SJRA report. Nobody's here today?
No, and, requirements said that we're not gonna be here.
Well, I do have a comment, but unfortunately I can't get any answers on it. So on page 35. The land acquisition cost. There's a budget of $1 million. It has nothing to do with purchase price of the land itself. And so we're presently 16% through the budget. At the project management, we're 45% through the budget on that. So, and I just question the amount of money that's budgeted for legal work.
What are you referring to? Page 35. is-
Oh, I'm sorry, that's the,
AC,
well,
yeah.
okay, that's the water line condition-based assessment. My big concern is we're 16% through the budget, but 45% through the project management. That's the concern I have, yeah.
So he's saying
Which page?
invoice
Page
complete
35.
percent on
Yeah.
page 35.
Yeah.
Project management, we're already 45% through that money.
Mhm.
And then you look at the rest of the numbers.
Yeah, we'll make fair to slide to ask what, how that's structured. I mean, maybe there was a lump sum,
Yeah.
upfront to start the work and then maybe not just go on time. We have to see how it's structured and see how the.
That's one of the concerns, and the next one is on page 37, where I'm talking about the legal cost of acquiring the property. Amount for the negotiator and the legal, I'd like to volunteer to be a negotiator and charge $215,000. It just seems like a whole lot of money, and I have no idea what the estimated land acquisition cost. Anybody have an idea on that? I'm sorry, Chris is not here to answer that. He probably knows I was going to nail him on those two items.
Well, I'm sure he can get that message between now and the next meeting and
Yeah.
you could discuss it with him. Anything else? All right, then moving on to item number 12, Spring Creek, there's no one here to discuss that. Number 13, attorney's report.
Nothing in open session today.
All right. Item 14, discuss the One Water Task Force.
The group got together yesterday to talk about Bear Panther drainage project, which I don't believe y'all are a participant in. But it is a project that was identified years ago to facilitate to look at improving the street flooding forest and then the surrounding neighborhoods on both sides around the high school and west. And so the idea was, and the stakeholder districts learned in June from the engineer that the updated cost estimate for that project, after all the modeling had been done, that the estimated project cost was more than the grant and the funds that had already been identified. So the idea was to either look at doing some additional analysis to knock the number down and see if there was a way to knock the number down, or to find some additional funding. And so we invited Congressman Crenshaw and Rep. Toth to the meeting yesterday to listen and learn about the project. They just didn't know to see if there was any state or federal funding available. Had a great meeting, educated everyone on the project itself. No decisions were to be made. This is really a MUD decision and the stakeholders decision to go forward, but we'll be presenting that to those stakeholder MUDs this month, today and tomorrow. And see where they want to go. I think it was kind of identified that there's no immediate monies. It appeared that were ready to come off the shelf, but there may be some. And they may end up looking at doing some additional modeling scenarios before they take any next steps.
I think also we have the interest of the township also involved, so. You know, it is something that affects a lot of people up there. Not actually flooding of homes, but the egress and of the residents up there when Research Forest floods out and emergency vehicles, you know, so hopefully we got the attention of the township also.
Oh, you did. Cindy was talking about having difficulties getting home at times and getting out of her house at times. So they're definitely on top of it.
I mean, to me, I think the biggest thing is the emergency vehicles, when they can't get through.
Yeah.
You know, that's something
Public
that,
safety is a priority building.
okay. Thank you, Eric. Which leads on to the general manager's report.
All right, there's quite a few items in the general manager report. I won't read it all to you, but what I wanted to do is have John give a little bit of update on the communications that we're doing.
Morning.
Morning, Fred.
Everyone get the separate communications report. Just a couple things to highlight here. So we're heading into fall season. So a lot more opportunities for in-person outreach. You see the calendar there that we have right now. We'll probably add a few more elements. Do that as we move along. Of course, you're always invited to come on out. There's something in your district or at any event really, and meet with folks. It's a great way to gauge public sentiment on matters. So come on out and join us in any of those and call me about them if you have any questions. On page 2 there at the bottom, social media, I brought forward some statistics right now that next story, now that's a new platform for us. He started posting there 6-8 months ago, and it's been quite popular. We're now in 37,500 households. And we know that every week, so we post twice a week on Nextdoor. 2,000 people on average are reading those posts each week. So that's been a nice, effective tool for us. We are now proudly a major sponsor of Woodlands Online Sports. So all of the live high school sports, football, baseball, basketball, softball, they're televised on Woodlands Online. And so we will be prominently associated with that. We'll have ads, we'll have commercials. We'll also have advertising throughout their site as well. And that's a nice opportunity for us to get over 100,000 viewers each year. So that's real good viewership. So good bang for the buck. It also associates us with high school sports as a community supporter in general. So that's a good target audience, a wide swath of demographics that tune into that. And those are folks that are generally engaged in the community. So we're excited about that. And then just an update on the Holloway Infrastructure Communications campaign. And so the PEC met with them last Wednesday. We're continuing to tune a variety of materials, key messages, the website, branding guidelines, community survey questions, and community advisory group charter. What we did a lot of work on last Wednesday was aligning our timelines, these communication timelines, with these project timelines, right? So things have shifted in the last couple of months, studies and so forth. And so making sure that this campaign really does line up well with the larger timeline. I noted website. So next month's MUD meetings, you will see the website. You'll get an opportunity to look through that. And before that goes live, I don't know what you want to say more on Holloway or the website.
No, that's it.
Okay.
We'll
John,
put it up before the.
I'm getting tired of telling you this. What a fantastic job you're doing. Appreciate it. very much.
Thank you.
I feel the same way. I think I told you before. People have mentioned it to me, about, hey, if you're going on the Woodlands Water website and see all the information on there. And that's unsolicited too. Of course, I don't say anything. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
That's-
always love to hear that. I really encourage you too, to, give me any feedback, positive or negative, to help us, get better. We want to hear it. So thank you.
And we've said this before too, is if you hear anything out there, let us know. Because we can form responses to educate the public when you're hearing things that are maybe not what they need to be hearing.
Can we educate the township?
Sorry.
Can we educate the township? I know on the defined water schedule, cul-de-sacs and things like that are even or odd, but, at least the timing that they do their watering. It's kind of hard to tell the residents, the certain hours that you can water when these guys are watering at 10 o'clock in the morning or 2 in the afternoon and.
During a rainstorm, that's my favorite. When it's actually raining.
Yeah,
that's my
pouring rain,
favorite.
they got their sprinklers going on.
Doesn't help promote the message. And so if you see that, if you have the opportunity to shoot me a text or an email with the time and place, I will definitely follow up with them on that and get it corrected. Sometimes their stuff goes haywire. And most of the time it's just a matter of making them aware and then being able to address it. We do have 2 monitors, we call them ambassadors, that are driving around a total of 30 hours a week looking for violations. And when they do, with a resident, they provide them education. It's not a gotcha thing. We're not finding folks, just making sure they are aware of the defined irrigation schedule. And they also let me know about commercial violations or township violations as well. But they can't be everywhere. So if folks send me things, we will follow up. Thank you.
Of course, the golf course is no, that's totally different too, right?
Yeah.
They water whenever they want to. Okay, anything else to the general manager's report? All right, item 16, the trustees report. I think everything's in there for you. The only things I can comment on, we had quite a bit of discussion on the One Water Task Force. Not what Eric was referring to, but more of trying to get the One Water Task Force going again and trying to get interested parties, and then how do we fund it and who runs it? And so that discussion took place. A lot of questions, and so it's back on the agenda for next month also. So continue doing that. And then also the wastewater treatment, number 1, there was you can read it in there. There was a request to hire another outside engineering firm to audit the engineering firm that they're going to use. And so that was defeated. But you can read all that in the report. Okay. Item 17, do we need to recess?
Yes.
All right, so we'll recess in accordance with section 551071. We're meeting with our attorney and then we'll reconvene back into public session after that.